The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council stretched so high that the ceiling disappeared into darkness. Representatives from 400 different alien species filled the massive chamber. Some floated in energy fields. Others stood on multiple legs or coiled their serpentine bodies around elevated platforms. The air hummed with translated voices speaking thousands of languages simultaneously. At the center of it all stood one human. Ambassador Marcus Webb wore a simple gray suit that looked plain compared to the glowing robes and elaborate armor surrounding him. His face showed no emotion as he waited. High Arbiter Thulvan looked down at the human from an elevated throne. The Arbiter's body was pure energy contained inside a ceremonial vessel that pulsed with blue light. When he spoke, his voice echoed through every corner of the chamber. You stand accused of serious crimes against the galactic community. 15 counts of territorial expansion without proper authorization. 12 instances of militarized colonization, in violation of the Compact of Stars and the complete destruction of the Krell forward outpost at Proxima Station, resulting in the deaths of 3,000 Krell citizens. Marcus said nothing. His hands remained clasped behind his back. The evidence against your species is overwhelming, Thulvan continued. Humanity has shown contempt for galactic law. You have acted with aggression and disregard for established protocols. Therefore, this council has reached a decision. The chamber fell silent. 400 species waited to hear the judgment. Humanity is sentenced to species quarantine. All human vessels will be confiscated immediately. All colonies beyond your home system will be dissolved. Earth will be sealed behind an impenetrable energy barrier for 1,000 standard cycles. You will have no contact with the galactic community during this time. This is the harshest sentence in Council history, but your actions have left us no choice. A murmur rippled through the assembled delegates. Many nodded in agreement. A few looked uncomfortable. The Krell representatives showed expressions of satisfaction. Marcus finally moved. He reached slowly into his jacket pocket. Instantly, 300 weapons powered up across the chamber. Energy rifles hummed. Plasma cannons charged. Defensive shields activated. Marcus pulled out a small data chip and held it up between two fingers. Before you execute this sentence, I have one question for the Council. You have no right to ask questions. Human, Thulvan replied coldly. Did anyone here investigate what the Krell were actually doing at Proxima Station before we destroyed it? The weapons remained trained on Marcus, but nobody fired. The Krell expansion to Proxima was authorized by this council 2 cycles ago, Thulvan said. It was a legitimate research facility. Research? Marcus repeated flatly. Would the council like to see what kind of research they were conducting? Thulvan hesitated for the first time. Present your evidence. Marcus inserted the chip into the central display system. The holographic projectors activated, filling the center of the chamber with images that made several delegates gasp in horror. The footage showed Krell scientists in sterile white laboratories. On metal tables lay human bodies. Men, women, children. Some were still alive, restrained and screaming. The Krell were dissecting them, taking samples, injecting them with various substances. The humans convulsed in pain. Some died while cameras recorded everything. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several representatives covered their eyes or turned away. Others demanded the images be stopped. Marcus let it play for 30 more seconds before speaking again. The Krell weren't conducting research. They were testing biological weapons designed specifically to kill humans. They kidnapped colonists from our settlements. Thousands of them. They experimented on our people to find the most effective way to commit genocide. He pulled out another chip and held it up. This contains their entire plan. They were 6 months away from deploying these weapons across all human colonies. Billions would have died. So, yes, we destroyed Proxima Station. We killed every single Krell there. And we would do it again without hesitation. The chamber descended into chaos. Half the delegates shouted that the evidence must be fake. The other half demanded an immediate investigation of the Krell. Representatives themselves were trying to leave the chamber. Thulvan struggled to restore order. It took several minutes before the noise died down enough for him to speak. Even if this evidence is genuine, it does not excuse your unprovoked destruction of a council-sanctioned facility. Marcus laughed. The sound was cold and humorless. Unprovoked? You're absolutely right, Arbiter. We should have waited until millions of humans were dead before responding. That would have been the civilized thing to do. Your sarcasm is noted and unwelcome. Your ignorance is noted and completely expected. Marcus walked in a slow circle around the platform. This council has existed for 12,000 years. You've developed elaborate rules and proper procedures. You've forgotten what it actually means to face extinction. A Serpentine delegate named Vexler spoke up. The Krell have filed a formal declaration of war against Earth in response to Proxima Station. They demand immediate reparations and the surrender of all human military assets. Marcus smiled for the first time. It was not a pleasant expression. Tell the Krell they are welcome to try collecting. You dare threaten a council species in this very chamber? Thulvan demanded. No threat. Just facts. The Krell wanted war. They prepared for it extensively. They just made one fatal miscalculation. And what was that? They thought they were the predators. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Marcus produced yet another data chip. This contains the current locations of every Krell military installation, every shipyard, every colonial outpost. It also contains their shield frequencies and defense network access codes. We've had surveillance on all of them for 18 months. Impossible, Vexler hissed. Krell security systems are among the most advanced in the galaxy. So they believed? Should I demonstrate? Marcus raised his hand toward his communication device. Stop. The command came from Thulvan. You would not dare commit such an act of war. A new voice spoke from the upper gallery. A figure descended on a gravity platform. The being resembled flowing liquid silver. Ambassador Webb, I am Counselor Rolthan. I have studied your species extensively since first contact. May I ask you a direct question? Marcus nodded. Double quotes. Why did you come here today? You knew the council would rule against you. You knew we would never accept your justification for destroying Proxima Station. So why present yourself for judgment? Marcus's expression softened slightly. Because despite everything, Counselor, we hoped you would prove us wrong. We hoped the council actually stood for justice instead of just maintaining order. We gave you a chance to see the truth. And now that we have failed your test? Now the Krell declaration of war becomes official in approximately 4 minutes. And Earth's response becomes inevitable. The chamber doors burst open. A Krell war commander strode in, surrounded by armed warriors. General Thaxcor pointed at Marcus. A human lies. Proxima Station was peaceful. His people murdered innocents. Marcus turned to face him calmly. Tell me, General, what happened to Research Director Vocanal? The Krell hesitated for just a fraction of a second. He died during your cowardly attack. Interesting. Because he's currently in human custody and he's been very cooperative. Marcus activated another hologram. A Krell scientist appeared, looking exhausted and beaten. He spoke in broken galactic standard. My name is Vocanal. I led the pathogen development project at Proxima Station. The human evidence is completely accurate. We created 17 bioweapons. The council liaison approved everything. General Thaxcor fired his weapon, destroying the projector. The general's rifle now pointed directly at Marcus's chest. You will pay for this deception. Human. Marcus didn't flinch. That shot was a mistake. General, the only mistake was not killing you immediately. No, the mistake was that this entire session has been broadcast live to every human colony and every human ship in the galaxy. 4 billion humans just watched you fire a weapon at an unarmed diplomat in the council chamber. 3 minutes ago, they were divided on whether war was justified. Now, communication systems across the chamber lit up with incoming transmissions. Hundreds became thousands. Counselor Rolthan accessed the feeds. Hi, Arbiter. I'm detecting massive energy signatures across all human systems. They're mobilizing their entire fleet. How many ships? Thulvin asked. Our intelligence estimates humans possess approximately 400 combat vessels. Marcus shook his head. 4,000. Complete silence filled the chamber. Impossible, Vexler whispered. For every ship you detected, we built 10 more. For every colony you knew about, we established 5 you didn't. You thought you understood humanity because we've only been in space for 40 years. You thought we were children. Marcus walked toward General Thaxcor, stopping centimeters from the weapon's muzzle. You want to know what makes humans deadly, General? It's not our technology. It's that we've been at war with ourselves for our entire history. We've perfected every way to kill, to deceive, to survive. Then we met you. Species that haven't fought a real war in thousands of years. Species that forgot what desperation looks like. He stared directly into the General's eyes. So yes, you declared war on humanity. Congratulations, you just made the deadliest mistake your species will ever make. Thaxcor-S claw tightened on the trigger. The lights went out when emergency systems activated. 3 seconds later, Marcus was gone. His voice echoed from the communication system. The Krell have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. If they refuse, Earth will demonstrate why humans don't need Council permission to defend ourselves. The Krell High Command gathered in their war fortress orbiting their homeworld. Supreme Commander Drathel sat at the head of a long table, his crimson scales gleaming under harsh lights. 20 of the most decorated Krell military leaders surrounded him. The humans make empty threats, Drathel growled. They have 40 years of space experience. We have 4,000. Their demands are laughable. General Thaxcor, who had just returned from the council chamber, looked less certain. Supreme Commander, their infiltration of council systems was unprecedented. Perhaps we should consider ... Consider what? Surrendering to primates who just discovered faster than light travel? Drathel slammed his claw on the table. The council has grown soft, but we have not. We will show these humans what real power looks like. Admiral Kreshva brought up tactical displays. Our intelligence shows major human population centers on Earth and 7 colony worlds. Total population approximately 9 billion. We have enough firepower to destroy every single one within a week. What about their orbital defenses? Drathel asked. Primitive. Kinetic weapons and early generation plasma cannons? Nothing that can penetrate our shields. Drathel stood from his seat. Then we respond with overwhelming force. Ready the invasion fleet. We'll attack their homeworld first and make an example of them. The Council will see what happens to species that defy Krell authority, a tactical officer interrupted. Supreme Commander. Incoming transmission from Earth. Put it through. The display showed a human woman in military uniform. Her hair was tied back severely. Her expression was harder than Krell battle armor. I am Admiral Victoria Grant of Earth Defense Command. You have 68 hours remaining on your surrender window. Drathel laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. You contact us to repeat threats? Let me respond with truth, human. We have 12 battle fleets containing 3,000 warships. We possess weapons that can crack planets. Your entire civilization could be erased in days. Surrender now, and we may allow some of you to live as servants. Victoria's expression didn't change. Your 12 fleets. Are those the ones positioned at Krell coordinates 447889221, or the ones hiding behind your moon? The Krell officers exchanged glances. Those were classified positions. Lucky guess, Drathel said. It changes nothing. It's not a guess. It's surveillance data from the 47 monitoring satellites we placed in your system over the past year. Your sensors can't detect them. Would you like me to tell you what you had for breakfast this morning? Drathel felt the first whisper of doubt. You're bluffing. You consumed 3 Rethka eggs and a protein supplement at 0647 hours station time. You've also developed a slight limp in your left leg from that injury during the Vraxian campaign 15 years ago. Should I continue? The chamber fell silent. Victoria leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to ignore our surrender demand because your pride won't allow anything else. You're going to attack Earth because you think we're weak. And then you're going to learn a lesson that will be taught in military academies for the next 1,000 years. Bold words from a species we could exterminate? You're absolutely right. You could exterminate us. You have superior numbers and superior firepower in most areas. Victoria smiled, and it was terrifying. But you won't. Do you know why? Enlighten me. Because you're thinking like you've always thought. You see warfare as bigger ships and more weapons. You've fought 100 wars against species that think the same way. You've never fought anyone like us. She touched a control. The display split into multiple screens showing Krell military installations. That's your primary shipyard at Krell 4? Your munitions depot on Krell 7. Your fleet command center on your northern continent. Notice anything? A tactical officer zoomed in on the images. His scales turned pale. Supreme Commander, those are live feeds? And there are human infiltration teams inside our installations. 73 teams, Victoria confirmed. Positioned at every critical military target in your empire. Each team carries enough antimatter charges to completely destroy their targets. They've been there for months, waiting. Drathel's voice dropped to a whisper. Impossible. You keep saying that word. Let me tell you what's actually impossible. You launching your invasion fleet without us destroying your entire military infrastructure in the opening seconds. You attacking Earth without your homeworld becoming defenseless. You winning a conventional war while we fight unconventionally. This is terrorism. No, this is war. Real war. The kind your species hasn't experienced in thousands of years, because you've only fought civilized opponents who followed council rules. Victoria's voice turned ice cold. We're not civilized. We're survivors. We've committed genocide against ourselves dozens of times. We've built weapons that could destroy our entire planet out of spite. We've created doctrines for total war that would make your veterans weep. She stood up. You wanted to test humanity? Congratulations. You're about to become a case study in why you don't provoke a species that evolved through constant brutal warfare. Drathel tried to regain control. Even if your teams exist, you cannot maintain them forever. Eventually we'll find them. You're right. Which is why the timer is counting down. 67 hours now. When it hits 0, either you've surrendered or those teams activate whether you found them or not. Your entire military capability goes up in antimatter fire. Then our fleets arrive to finish the job. The Council will never allow it. The Council can't stop us. We just proved that. They're terrified of us now. They won't intervene to save you. Admiral Kreshva interrupted. We could evacuate the installations. Move our assets. You could try, Victoria agreed. You have 3,000 critical facilities. You'd need to evacuate all of them simultaneously and verify each one is clear. All in less than 67 hours. Even if you managed that, you'd leave your empire completely defenseless for weeks. Other species might notice. Your rivals might strike. Drathel realized he was trapped. What do you want? I already told you. Unconditional surrender. Everyone involved in Proxima Station handed over for trial. Complete disclosure of all Krell military assets. Reparations for the humans killed in your experiments. And a permanent treaty guaranteeing Krell neutrality in human affairs. Those terms are humiliating. Those terms are generous. In human history, when someone attempted genocide against us, we usually erased their civilization from existence. Ask the Carthaginians. Oh wait, you can't, because Rome destroyed them so completely that nothing remained. You would commit genocide to punish genocide? Victoria's expression turned completely cold. We would commit genocide to prevent future genocide. That's the difference you don't understand. You experimented on humans as a scientific exercise. We would eradicate your species as a strategic necessity. Not from hatred. Not from anger. But because allowing a threat to remain would be tactically foolish, she glanced off screen. 66 hours, 53 minutes. I suggest you start drafting your surrender document. And Supreme Commander? Don't bother trying to find our teams. Each one has authorization to activate immediately if compromised. You just speed up your own destruction. The transmission ended, the Krell High Command sat in shocked silence. General Thaxgor finally spoke. Supreme Commander, we must seriously consider their offer. No. Drathel roared. This is psychological warfare. They're trying to make us surrender without fighting. I refuse to believe humans could infiltrate our most secure facilities. Then verify it, Admiral Kreshva said quietly. Send teams to inspect the installations they mentioned. If humans are lying, we'll know within hours. Drathel considered this. Do it, but prepare the invasion fleet regardless. If this is a bluff, we strike Earth with everything we have. Over the next 6 hours, Krell security teams swept through their installations. The reports came back one by one. Installation 47B human team confirmed. 4 operatives. They activated a warning beacon when approached. Facility evacuated, shipyard Krell 4. 3 human teams discovered. 15 operatives total. Each carrying enough antimatter to destroy the entire facility. Command Center Northern Continent. Security detected foreign technology in critical systems. Human encryption confirmed. Operative locations unknown. The reports continued. 64 of the 73 locations were confirmed compromised. The remaining 9 couldn't be verified, but the pattern was clear. How? Drathel whispered. How did they penetrate our security? An intelligence officer provided the answer. Supreme Commander, we've analyzed their tactics. They used advanced stealth technology, social engineering, and genetically modified operatives who can mimic Krell biological signatures. They've been studying us since before first contact. They've been preparing for this. Drathel stared at tactical displays showing his compromised empire. 40 years. Humanity had been in space for 40 years and spent that entire time preparing for war. General Thaxgor stood. Supreme Commander, we have no choice. If we attack Earth, our military infrastructure is destroyed. We lose our ability to defend against any threat. Our rivals will sense weakness. The Empire could collapse. If we surrender to humans, we admit that a 40-year-old civilization defeated us. The humiliation would be equally catastrophic. Counselor Olfan's voice came through on a secure channel. Perhaps, but humiliation allows you to survive and rebuild. Annihilation does not. The Silver Counselor appeared on their communication system. How did you access this frequency? Drathel demanded. The same way humans accessed your installations. I've been studying them. I understand how they think. I'm trying to save you from your own pride. Speak then, Counselor. The humans are not bluffing. They never bluff. That's what makes them dangerous. Every threat they make, they fully intend to carry out. They destroyed Proxima Station and killed every Krell there. You thought it was barbaric? They thought it was restraint. Rolfan's form shimmered. They gave you 72 hours not from mercy but from efficiency. They want peaceful surrender because it costs them nothing. But if you refuse, they'll execute their plan exactly as threatened without hesitation or remorse. How can you be certain? Because I've reviewed their history. Humans lived under the threat of mutually assured destruction for nearly a century. They built enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planet 50 times over, then pointed them at themselves and called it peace. They're the only species that seriously considered their own extinction as a valid strategy. The counselor paused. They're not like us. We value survival above all. Humans value victory. If victory requires sacrifice up to and including their own destruction, they'll make that sacrifice without hesitation. Drathel felt true fear for the first time in decades. Supreme Commander, Admiral Kreshva said quietly, we have 59 hours remaining. I recommend surrender negotiations. Every officer waited. Drathel looked at each of them and saw the same realization. They had started a war they couldn't win. Open a channel to Earth. I want to speak with Admiral Grant. When Victoria's face appeared, Drathel spoke with as much dignity as possible. We. Wish to discuss terms of our compliance. Not. Compliance, surrender, use the correct word. Drathel S. Scales flushed with humiliation. The terms of our surrender. 3 days after the Krell surrender, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Every species representative was present. The tension was overwhelming. High Arbiter Thulvan called the session to order. We are gathered to address the situation involving humanity and the recent Krell conflict. The Council must determine how to respond to Earth's actions. Ambassador Eli Ramirez stood at the central platform. Unlike Marcus, Eli wore a formal diplomatic suit with Earth insignia. His demeanor was calm and almost friendly. Before we begin, Thulvan continued, where is Ambassador Webb? He left this chamber illegally and is classified as a fugitive. Eli smiled pleasantly. Marcus is conducting diplomatic outreach to several non-council species. Interested in relations with Earth. As for leaving illegally, you'll find that the security shutdown was actually a systems malfunction. We've submitted a full technical report. No illegal activity occurred. Several representatives started objecting, but Thulvan raised a hand. We will address that later. First, the Krell situation. General Faxcore, present your grievance. The Krell general stood with noticeably less aggressive posture than before. The humans threatened to destroy critical Krell infrastructure using infiltration teams and terrorist tactics. They forced us into humiliating surrender through illegal methods. Eli's expression remained pleasant. I'm confused, General. You declared war on Earth? We responded with strategic asset positioning? Surely military tactics during wartime aren't illegal. You infiltrated our sovereign territory before war was declared. You conducted genocide experiments on human civilians before war was declared. Seems like we both engaged in preemptive actions. The difference is ours were defensive while yours were genocidal. Vexler, the Serpentine representative, interjected. The Council must address the greater issue. Humanity demonstrated military capabilities far beyond what was reported during your initial evaluation. You deliberately deceived the Council. Eli pulled up a holographic document. If you review our initial application for Council membership, you'll find we provided completely accurate information. We stated we possessed defensive fleet capabilities sufficient to protect human interests. That was true. We never specified fleet size because you never asked. A lie of omission is still a lie? Is it? The Council's evaluation teams never requested detailed military information. They assumed we were weak and primitive based on our age as a spacefaring species. That's not deception on our part. That's incompetence on yours. The chamber erupted in outrage. Thulvan struggled to restore order. Councillor Rolothan spoke from the upper gallery. Ambassador Ramirez raises a valid point. We did assume. We spent 12,000 years dealing with species that follow predictable development patterns. Humanity does not. Thank you, Counselor, Eli said. And since we're discussing unprecedented situations, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. The genocide program the Council authorized. We authorized no such thing. Thulvan protested. Really? Then how did the Krell establish a military research facility at Proxima Station, directly violating buffer zone agreements without Council approval? How did they import illegal bioweapons research equipment without triggering oversight? How did they kidnap and murder thousands of humans without a single Council inspector noticing? Eli's tone remained conversational, but his words cut deep. Either the Council authorized it, or the Council is so incompetent that species can commit genocide under your watch without you noticing. Which would you prefer we believe? Representative Morak T, an insectoid being known for neutrality, clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. The ambassador makes an uncomfortable point. Our investigation into Proxima Station has revealed significant oversights in monitoring protocols. Oversights? Eli laughed bitterly. Councillor Nexval personally approved Krell expansion to Proxima. We have documentation. After we captured Research Director Volcanol, he explained Council involvement very clearly. Councillor Nexval is not present at this session, Sullivan noted. No. He's currently under arrest on Krell Prime awaiting trial for conspiracy to commit genocide. The Krell were very cooperative in sharing information about which council members knew about their plans. Eli pulled up another document. Turns out 7 council members had full knowledge of the Proxima Station project. They accepted bribes from the Krell to ignore what was happening. I have signed confessions from all 7, complete with financial records and communications logs. We're submitting this for prosecution. The chamber fell silent. Representative Kivash, a crystalline being serving as council legal expert, examined the documents. This evidence appears authentic. If verified, it represents the most serious corruption scandal in council history. It gets better, Eli said. Our investigation suggests this isn't isolated. The Krell used similar tactics to gain approval for 3 other questionable projects in the past decade. Council corruption appears to be systemic. Thulvan's energy form flickered. Ambassador, are you seriously suggesting that the Galactic Council is fundamentally corrupt? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts based on evidence. Whether the corruption is fundamental or widespread, I'll leave for you to determine. Representative Morakti spoke again. Setting aside corruption, we must address humanity's military actions. You threatened to destroy an entire species' military infrastructure. You infiltrated sovereign territory. You held the Krell Empire hostage. These actions set a dangerous precedent, Eli nodded. You're absolutely right. It sets a precedent that if you attempt genocide against humans, we respond with overwhelming force and zero mercy. I think that's an excellent precedent. But where does it end? If humans can threaten total war whenever they feel wronged, the Council has no authority. The Council had no authority the moment we proved we could compromise your most secure facility. You're just now realizing it. As for where it ends with species not trying to exterminate us. Seems reasonable. Councillor Rolthin descended to the main floor. May I speak freely, High Arbiter? Thulvan gestured assent. The Council is afraid. For 12,000 years we've maintained order through consensus and collective action. No single species could challenge us. But humanity has shown that one. Determined species with the right capabilities can render our collective power meaningless. The counselor turned to address everyone. We're not debating humanity's actions. We're debating whether we still have power to control them. And the answer is no. We don't. Then what do you suggest? I suggest we adapt. Humanity isn't going away. They won't submit to council authority just because we demand it. So we have 2 options. We can fight them and lose, or we can find a way to work with them. Work with them? They've proven themselves aggressive, deceptive, and dangerous. Rolthan's form shifted toward Eli. Ambassador, may I ask you? You a direct question? Of course, Counselor. What does humanity actually want? Not diplomatic answers. What are your species' genuine long-term goals? Eli was quiet for a moment. We want to survive. That's it. That's always been it. Everything we've done, the deception, the military buildup, the aggressive responses, it all comes from understanding that the universe is hostile and we can't rely on anyone but ourselves. You don't trust us. Would you? The council authorized genocide experiments on our people. 7 counselors took bribes to look away. When we brought evidence here, half of you wanted to imprison our ambassador instead of investigating crimes against us. Why would we trust any of you? Representative Morak T. clicked thoughtfully. How do we bridge this gap? How can the council and humanity coexist without trust? Honestly, I don't know if we can, but I know we can't do it the way things have been done. The council assumes all species will eventually conform to your standards. Humans won't. We can't. Our history and evolution are built around competition, conflict, and survival. We're not going to become peaceful and trusting just because you think that's how civilized species should behave. Then you're admitting humans are fundamentally incompatible with galactic civilization? No, I'm admitting we're different. Maybe the council needs to expand its definition of civilized. Maybe there's room for species that prioritize security over cooperation, that prepare for the worst while hoping for the best, that maintain capacity for terrible violence precisely so they never have to use it. Fulvan spoke carefully. You're describing a species that would constantly destabilize the peace we've maintained, or a species that would ensure that peace is genuine, not just absence of conflict because everyone's too afraid to challenge the status quo. Eli walked around the platform. The Krell committed genocide in your name. 7 counselors enabled it. How many other crimes have been hidden because everyone assumes the council is beyond reproach? Maybe you need someone who questions your authority, who refuses to accept that the way things have always been done is the only way. You want to reform the council? Vexler sounded incredulous. I want the council to do its job. Protect species from genuine threats. Prevent genocide. Ensure justice. If you were doing those things, we wouldn't have needed to threaten the Krell. We could have brought evidence to you and trusted you'd handle it. But we couldn't trust you, so we handled it ourselves. Councillor Rolfan addressed the assembly. Ambassador Ramirez has identified the core problem. The council has become complacent. We've stopped serving justice and started serving order. They're not the same thing. So what's your proposal? I propose we accept humanity as a member species with full voting rights and council participation. But we also implement new oversight mechanisms to address the corruption Ambassador Ramirez exposed. We reform evaluation procedures to prevent future genocides. And we create a new framework for working with species that don't fit traditional models. You want to reward their aggression with membership? I want to transform their aggression into accountability. If humans are inside the council, they can push for reforms from within. If they're outside, they'll continue acting unilaterally whenever threatened. Which scenario is more stable? The debate continued for hours. Representatives argued passionately on both sides. Finally, Fulvan called for a vote. All in favor of granting Earth full council membership and implementing the proposed reform package? The vote was close, 214 in favor, 186 against, but it passed. The motion carries. Humanity is granted full council membership effective immediately. Ambassador Ramirez, you may select Earth Representative Counselor. Eli nodded. Thank you. I believe Ambassador Marcus Webb would be an excellent choice. Several representatives groaned at the thought of Marcus having an official council position. As the session adjourned, Counselor Wolfen approached Eli privately. You planned this entire outcome, didn't you? Eli smiled. Planned is a strong word. We had scenarios and contingencies. Marcus was the hammer, aggressive and scary. On the olive branch, reasonable and diplomatic. Classic negotiation. Start with extreme demands. Then offer a moderate compromise that's actually what you wanted all along. And what you wanted was council membership and reforms. We wanted accountability and a seat at the table. If the council makes decisions affecting humanity, we need to be part of that process. And if the council is corrupt, we need authority to help fix it. Rolfan's form shimmered. You humans are terrifying. We're survivors. And now we're survivors with a voice in galactic governance. 6 months after Earth's acceptance into the Galactic Council, Ambassador Marcus Webb sat in his new office reviewing incident reports. As Earth's representative on the Council's executive committee, he had access to information most species never saw. What he was seeing disturbed him deeply. His assistant James Parker entered with another stack of data chips. More reports from investigation teams. You're not going to like them. Marcus loaded the chips into his display. The information painted a troubling picture. Since humanity pushed through the reform package, resistance had been growing among traditional council members. Not open opposition, but subtle sabotage. Investigation teams were being denied access to critical facilities. Reformist counselors faced procedural challenges delaying their initiatives. Species were withdrawing cooperation from joint programs if humans were involved. Most worrying, there had been 3 suspicious accidents involving ships carrying human diplomats. They're trying to freeze us out without directly confronting us. Marcus said. James nodded. The old guard doesn't want change. They benefited from the old system. Our reforms threaten that. Marcus pulled up a specific file. This one worries me most. The Talvar Confederation has been quietly building a coalition of species opposed to our reforms. They're calling themselves the Sovereignty Alliance. Their stated goal is preserving traditional council values, but their real agenda is rolling back everything we've accomplished. How many species have joined? 47 confirmed, with another 60 expressing interest. If they coordinate their votes, they could block any reform legislation we propose. James frowned. Can they remove us from the council? Not easily. Removing a member requires 3/4 majority vote, and they don't have those numbers yet. But they can make our participation meaningless by ensuring nothing we support ever passes. Marcus's communication system chimed. Councillor Rolthan's liquid silver form appeared. Marcus, we have a situation. There's been an attack on the human colony at Tarsus 9. Marcus's blood ran cold. What kind of attack? Unknown vessels with no identification. They struck the colony's orbital platforms and destroyed 3 cargo ships. Casualties estimated at 47. Attackers withdrew before our response fleet arrived. Did we get any data on the attacking ships? Some. I'm sending sensor logs now. But Marcus, the weapon signatures match Talvar military technology. Marcus studied the data, his jaw tightening. They're testing us. They want to see if we'll respond with force like we did against the Krell, give them an excuse to frame us as aggressive warmongers. That's my assessment. What are you going to do? First, make sure our people on Tarsus 9 have support. Second, find proof of who ordered this attack. Third, show the Sovereignty Alliance that we learned from the Krell situation. We don't need to threaten overwhelming force when precision will do. Rolthan's form flickered with concern. Be careful. The political situation is delicate. If you act too aggressively, you'll prove their propaganda right. And if we don't act at all, we prove we can be attacked with impunity. Neither option is acceptable. Over the next 72 hours, Marcus assembled a team of the Council's best investigators. He deliberately chose members from neutral species, beings who had no stake in the human Talvar conflict and whose findings would be seen as credible. The investigation moved quickly. Within a week, they traced the attack vessels to a Talvar military shipyard. They found communications between Talvar commanders and political leaders discussing sending a message to the humans. They discovered payment records for mercenaries hired to provide plausible deniability. The smoking gun came from an unlikely source. A Talvar officer who had been present during planning meetings contacted Earth's intelligence service and offered to testify. Captain Vornesh was a career military officer with 30 years of service. He sat across from Marcus in a secure location, his four-armed frame tense with nervous energy. I joined the military to protect my people, not to murder civilians for political gain. Tell me what you know about the Tarsus 9 attack, Marcus said. It was ordered by Defense Minister Krathel and approved by 3 members of the Talvar High Council. They wanted to provoke Earth into a violent response that would justify their opposition to your reforms. They believed if they could make humans look dangerous, other species would support rolling back your council membership. Do you have proof? Vornesh placed a data chip on the table. Complete communications logs, planning documents, and authorization codes. Everything you need. Marcus examined the chip. Why are you doing this? You're betraying your own government. My government betrayed everything I swore to protect when they murdered innocents for political advantage. I've studied human high. Story. I know what happens when good people stay silent while their leaders commit atrocities. I won't be silent. Marcus felt a surge of respect. Your testimony could end your career, maybe your life. I know. But some things are more important. Justice is one of them. With Vornesh's testimony and supporting evidence, Marcus called an emergency council session. He made sure it was broadcast live to every member species. No backroom deals. Everything public. When the council convened, Marcus stood at the central platform with Captain Vornesh beside him. The chamber was packed. 3 weeks ago, the human colony at Tarsus 9 was attacked by unknown vessels. 47 civilians died. Today I'm here to present evidence proving who ordered that attack and why. The holographic displays lit up with evidence. Ship movements, communications intercepts, planning documents, financial records. The case was airtight. The attack was ordered by the Talver government, specifically by Defense Minister Krathel and members of the High Council, as part of a deliberate plan to provoke Earth into an aggressive response that could be used to undermine our council. Membership. Ambassador Vextal of the Talver Confederation leaped to his feet. This is slander. Fabricated evidence? Marcus turned to Vornesh. Captain, you served in the Talver military for 3 decades. You were present at the planning meetings. Please tell the council what you witnessed. Vornesh stepped forward and in a clear, steady voice described everything. The planning sessions. The debate over how many casualties would provoke a response. The selection of Tarsus 9 because it was lightly defended. The hiring of mercenaries. The celebration after learning the attack succeeded. The chamber fell silent. High Arbiter Tholvin spoke carefully. These are serious accusations. You understand that if proven true, your government could face severe sanctions? I understand. I also understand that if proven false, I could be executed for treason. I'm willing to face either outcome because I'm telling the truth. Marcus added, we're not asking the council to take our word. We're requesting a formal investigation by the council's independent oversight committee. Let neutral parties examine the evidence. Representative Morak T., who chaired the oversight committee, examined the data. The evidence appears substantial. I recommend we immediately begin formal investigation. In the meantime, I propose the council issue a temporary injunction preventing any military action by the Talver Confederation until this is resolved. Outrageous. Vexto protested. You would restrict our sovereign right to self-defense based on fabricated accusations? If the accusations are fabricated, Marcus said calmly, then investigation will prove it and the injunction will be lifted. But if they're true, the injunction prevents you from destroying evidence or intimidating witnesses. Seems reasonable. The vote on the injunction passed 287 to 113. The investigation was authorized unanimously. As the session adjourned, Vextile approached Marcus privately. You think you've won. You haven't. All you've done is make more enemies. Marcus looked at him steadily. We didn't make you our enemy. You declared war on us when you murdered our civilians. All we've done is ensure you face justice. Justice? Vextile laughed bitterly. The council doesn't care about justice. They care about stability. And you humans are destabilizing everything. Maybe stability built on corruption and murder isn't worth preserving. Vextile leaned closer. You've made powerful species very nervous. The Krell learned what happens when they confront you directly, so now others are learning to be more subtle. The accidents with your ships? The trade embargoes? That's just the beginning. We'll erode your position slowly until the council has no choice but to remove you. Marcus smiled without warmth. You're assuming we haven't planned for that. You're assuming we're not already 10 steps ahead. You're assuming we're playing your game by your rules? And what game are you playing? The same one we've always played, survival. The difference is we're really good at it. Over the next month, the council's investigation confirmed everything Vornesh testified to. The Talver government had ordered the attack. Defense Minister Krathel was arrested. 3 High Council members resigned. The Talver Confederation faced the largest sanctions in council history, but Marcus knew Vextal had been right about one thing. They'd made powerful enemies. The Sovereignty Alliance didn't dissolve. It became more determined, and more careful intelligence reports showed the Alliance coordinating a long-term strategy to undermine human influence, spreading propaganda about human aggression, working to exclude humans from key committees, sabotaging human trade agreements and scientific collaborations. Late one night, Admiral Victoria Grant contacted Marcus via secure channel. We have a problem. Our deep space monitoring network detected unusual military buildups by 17 different species, all Sovereignty Alliance members. They're positioning forces along strategic routes and near human colonies. Are they preparing for coordinated attack? Not yet. This looks like stage setting. Establishing capability to strike if they decide to, but not committed yet. They're waiting for something. For us to make a mistake. They're hoping we'll do something aggressive that justifies military action. So what do? Marcus thought carefully. We do what we've always done. Prepare for the worst while working toward the best. Increase defensive readiness but don't make aggressive moves. Keep gathering intelligence. And most importantly, build our own coalition. Our own coalition? The Alliance has 47 members. That means 353 species haven't joined. Some are neutral, but others might be sympathetic to our reforms. We need to start building relationships, showing them humanity isn't the threat the Alliance claims. Victoria nodded. I'll coordinate with our diplomatic corps. But Marcus, if the Alliance does attack, are we prepared? Are we ever not prepared? We've got contingencies for scenarios ranging from isolated incidents to full-scale war. The question isn't whether we can respond. It's whether we can avoid having to. After Victoria signed off, Marcus walked to his office window and looked out at the council station. Somewhere in this massive structure, representatives from 400 species were making decisions shaping the future, and somewhere else, enemies were plotting humanity's downfall. Marcus activated his secure communications network. This is Ambassador Webb. Initiate Operation Sunlight. It's time to show the Sovereignty Alliance what happens when you operate in shadows against a species that knows every dark corner of the galaxy, across known space. Human intelligence operatives began executing a plan months in the making. Within days, the Alliance would learn you don't beat humanity by being subtle. The game was about to change again. Operation Sunlight launched simultaneously across 47 Alliance member homeworlds. Human intelligence operatives didn't attack or sabotage. They did something far more devastating. They exposed the truth every corrupt deal Alliance leadership had made. Every bribe they'd accepted, every secret agreement benefiting them at their citizens' expense, all of it became public. On Talva Prime, citizens discovered their High Council had embezzled billions from infrastructure projects. On Vexler S. homeworld, the population learned their representatives had sold mining rights to their colonies for personal profit. On world after world, Alliance leaders were exposed as the very corruption they claimed to oppose. The revelations sparked protests, investigations, and in several cases, government collapses. Within 2 weeks, the Sovereignty Alliance was in chaos. Ambassador Marcus Webb watched the results from the council station. Councillor Rolfan stood beside him. You've dismantled their coalition without firing a shot. Impressive and terrifying. We didn't dismantle anything, Marcus corrected. We just showed their citizens who their leaders really were. What those citizens do with that information is up to them. A distinction without much difference. You knew the information would destroy the Alliance. We knew the truth would matter. If their leaders had been honest and competent, the revelations wouldn't have hurt them. Marcus pulled up a display showing real-time updates from Alliance worlds. Besides, we had to do something. They were positioning forces to attack our colonies. Would you prefer we'd waited for them to strike first? I would prefer the galaxy didn't have to choose between human pragmatism and traditional council ineffectiveness. Then the council should become more effective. That's what the reforms were supposed to accomplish. Rolfan's liquid form shifted. Speaking of which, we have enough votes now to implement the next phase. With the Alliance in disarray, opposition to the reform package has collapsed. The oversight mechanisms you proposed will pass. Marcus nodded. Good. Real independent oversight means species can't hide crimes behind council protocol anymore. It means accountability. It also means humans will be subject to the same oversight. I'm counting on it. We don't want exceptions or special treatment. We want a system that works fairly for everyone, including us. A communication alert interrupted them. Admiral Victoria Grant's face appeared, looking grim. Marcus, urgent situation. A Krell military fleet just entered the Proxima system. They're claiming training exercises, but they're positioning near the rebuilt human research station. Marcus felt ice in his veins. How many ships? 74 warships, including 3 dreadnoughts, largest Krell fleet deployment since their surrender. Are they threatening the station? Not directly. They're maintaining safe distances and following technical treaty requirements. But the message is clear. They're showing they still have military capability and aren't afraid to use it near human assets. Rolfin moved closer to the display. This could be a provocation to test the treaty. If you respond aggressively, the Krell could claim you violated the peace agreement. Marcus thought quickly. Victoria, send a single ship, a diplomatic vessel unarmed, to approach the Krell fleet. I want to talk to whoever's commanding. You're going personally? No, you are. I need someone who understands both military operations and diplomatic subtlety. That's you? Victoria looked skeptical but nodded. I'll take the endeavor. Should be in position within 6 hours. As her transmission ended, Marcus turned to Rolfin. I need you to do something. Contact the Krell government directly. Not through official channels. Use your personal connections. Find out what this is really about. The Krell aren't stupid enough to violate the treaty without a reason, Rolfin agreed and departed. Marcus accessed Earth's intelligence network and started cross-referencing recent Krell activities with Alliance movements. What he found was disturbing. 3 weeks earlier, Alliance representatives had made a quiet visit to Krellnax. The official purpose was cultural exchange, but intelligence suggested they'd met with Krell military leadership. Shortly after, the Krell began mobilizing their fleet. They're trying to open a second front, Marcus muttered. The Alliance can't fight us directly, so they're encouraging the Krell to challenge the treaty. If we respond with force, it validates everything they've said. If we don't, it shows we're weak. It was a cleverer trap than he'd expected. Marcus pulled up a secure channel to Earth's civilian government. President Elena Vasquez appeared, her expression concerned. Marcus, I've been briefed. What are our options? Limited. If we escalate militarily, we play into the Alliance's hands. If we do nothing, we invite future challenges. We need a third option. I'm listening. We demonstrate that the treaty works. We show we can respond through diplomatic and legal channels rather than military force. And we make it clear the Krell aren't acting independently. They're being manipulated by the Alliance. Elena considered this. You want to put the Alliance and Krell on trial in the court of galactic opinion? Exactly. We gather evidence of the Alliance meeting with Krell leadership. We document every treaty violation the Krell are committing with this deployment, even technical ones. We build a case so airtight the Council has no choice but to act. And we do it publicly so every species can see we're following proper procedures. That assumes the Council will act. After everything we've learned about Council corruption, can we trust them? Marcus smiled grimly. No, but with the reforms about to pass and oversight mechanisms in place, they won't be able to ignore evidence like before. We'll force them to do their job. Over the next 12 hours, pieces fell into place. Rolfin confirmed Alliance representatives had offered the Krell financial support and diplomatic backing if they challenged human positions. Victoria reported the Krell fleet commander was notably hostile during communication but hadn't made overtly aggressive moves. Earth's intelligence service compiled comprehensive evidence of Alliance Krell. Coordination. Marcus called another emergency council session. When the council convened, Marcus presented his evidence methodically. Communications logs showing Alliance representatives promising support. Financial records indicating money flowing to Krell military accounts. Strategic assessments discussing how to test human resolve with Alliance diplomatic protection. The pattern is clear. The Sovereignty Alliance, unable to challenge humanity directly after their corruption was exposed, has recruited the Krell to provoke us. They're hoping we'll respond with military force, validating their propaganda. Or they're hoping we'll back down, showing our treaties are meaningless. Ambassador Vextel stood to object. You're connecting dots that aren't there. The Krell are conducting legitimate exercises. That some Alliance members met with their government is coincidental. Coincidental? Marcus pulled up a specific document. This is a strategic memo from your own defense ministry discussing opportunities to leverage Krell military pressure to constrain human influence. Should I read it aloud, or would you like to continue claiming coincidence? Vextal sat down without responding. High Arbiter Tholvan studied the evidence. The documentation appears genuine. However, conducting military exercises is not illegal. What specific treaty violation are you claiming? Article 17 of the Earth-Krell Peace Treaty states neither party may deploy military forces within 10 light-years of the other's territory without 48 hours advance notification. The Krell fleet entered Proxima System within our claimed territory without notification. Article 23 states exercises near treaty partner territory must be coordinated. The Krell didn't coordinate. Article 31 states both parties will refrain from actions designed to intimidate. A 74-ship fleet appearing near our station is textbook intimidation. Representative Maract examined the treaty. Ambassador Webb is correct. These are technical violations, but they are violations. Therefore, Marcus continued, I'm invoking the treaty's dispute resolution mechanism. I'm requesting the Council appoint a neutral arbiter to adjudicate these violations and determine appropriate remedies. It was a masterful move. By invoking formal treaty procedures rather than threatening force, Marcus had taken the high ground. Tholvan looked uncomfortable. Very well. The Council will appoint an arbiter. However, this could take weeks. I understand. In the meantime, I request the Council order all parties to maintain current positions and refrain from actions that could escalate. That means the Krell fleet stays where it is and our forces remain on defensive posture. No one moves until the arbiter issues a ruling. The vote to appoint an arbiter and freeze positions passed easily. 3 days later, the situation took an unexpected turn. A Krell civilian ship broadcast a message across all frequencies. The message showed Krell civilians, thousands of them, protesting in the streets of Krellnax. They were demanding their government withdraw the fleet and honor the treaty. They were calling for removal of military leaders who had accepted alliance bribes. They were demanding accountability. The protest leader, a Krell educator named Veshka, spoke directly to cameras. Our government claims this deployment is about Krell pride and sovereignty. But we've seen the evidence humans presented. Our leaders sold our honor for alliance money. They're risking war not to protect us but to serve foreign interests. We demand better. We demand honesty. We demand peace. Admiral Victoria reported the protest was having impact. Several Krell ships are showing reduced power signatures. It looks like some crews are refusing orders. Admiral Vexfer is trying to maintain discipline, but his authority is crumbling. Marcus watched the protests spread across Krell worlds with satisfaction and concern. This is what happens when people see the truth. The Krell civilians never wanted war. They just didn't know their leaders were lying. You weaponized transparency, Rolfin observed. First against the Alliance, now against the Krell. It's not a weapon, it's a principle. People deserve to know what their governments are doing in their name. If that knowledge destroys corrupt regimes, that's not our fault. Within a week, the Krell government collapsed. Supreme Commander Drethul and senior leadership resigned. A civilian coalition took control and immediately ordered the fleet's withdrawal. They issued a formal apology to Earth and requested renegotiation of treaty terms. To establish better communication protocols, the Council's arbiter never had to issue a ruling. The crisis resolved through transparency and popular pressure. In the aftermath, the Galactic Council passed the comprehensive reform package. New oversight mechanisms were established. Independent investigators were granted authority to examine Council operations. Corruption penalties were strengthened. A new principle was added to the Council's founding charter. All member species have the right to know the truth about actions taken in their name. It became known as the Webb Doctrine. 6 months after the Krell crisis, Ambassador Marcus Webb stood before the full Council Assembly for what he'd announced would be his final address as Earth's executive representative. When I first came to this chamber, I was here to be judged. The Council had decided humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable, too young to participate in galactic civilization. You were ready to quarantine us. He walked slowly around the platform. But something interesting happened. As you judged us, we judged you, and we found an institution that had lost its way. A council more concerned with maintaining order than ensuring justice. A system where corruption flourished because no one wanted to disturb the status quo. We could have withdrawn. We could have said the council was beyond saving and built our own alliances. But we didn't. Instead, we fought to reform the council from within. We exposed corruption. We demanded accountability. We insisted that truth mattered more than political convenience. Marcus paused, looking around at the 400 species represented. Some of you hated us for it. You saw us as arrogant newcomers disrupting traditions. Others appreciated what we were trying to do, even if our methods were harsh. But I think everyone here understands now that the galaxy is better for what we've accomplished together. The reforms we've implemented aren't about giving humanity special status. They're about creating a council that lives up to its founding ideals. A council where justice matters, where corruption is punished, where transparency is the norm, High Arbiter Thulvan spoke. Ambassador Webb, your service has been remarkable if unconventional. What will you do now? Marcus smiled. I'm going home to Earth. I've spent 3 years fighting political battles in this chamber. It's time for someone else to carry that burden. Ambassador Ramirez will continue as Earth's primary representative. He's better suited for the day-to-day diplomacy anyway. And humanity's role in the Council? We'll continue pushing for reforms. We'll continue demanding accountability. We'll continue being the voice that asks uncomfortable questions. That's what you need, whether you want to admit it or not. Marcus looked directly at the assembled delegates. You invited us into the galactic community expecting we'd conform to your rules and traditions. Instead, we changed your rules and challenged your traditions. Some of you will never forgive us for that, but your children will thank us. Because 50 years from now, when the reforms we fought for have had time to take root, the Council will be stronger. More effective. And the species who tried to stop us will realize we weren't trying to destroy galactic civilization. We were trying to save it from its own complacency. He stepped back from the platform. Well done, Council. You declared war on the deadliest species in the galaxy. And instead of destroying you, we made you better. I'd say that's a pretty good outcome. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, Representative Morok T began a slow, rhythmic clicking of its mandibles. The traditional insectoid gesture of respect. Others joined in with their own species equivalents. Not all of them. Not even most. But enough. As Marcus left the chamber for the last time, Counselor Rolulfin caught up with him. You really are going home? I am. I've done what I came to do. The galaxy won't be the same without you causing chaos in council sessions, Marcus laughed. The galaxy will be fine. You don't need me to cause chaos. You just needed someone to show you that change was possible. Now you know. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. He paused at the exit and looked back at the Grand Chamber one last time. Besides, we humans didn't come this far just to stop now. We'll keep pushing, keep challenging, keep demanding better. That's what we do. We survive. We adapt. And we never accept that things have to stay the way they've always been. That's what makes you terrifying, Rolfin said. No, Marcus corrected. That's what makes us human. He walked out of the council chamber and toward the docking bay where his ship waited. Behind him, the council continued its session. Debating, arguing, slowly, painfully learning to do better. The galaxy had declared humanity too dangerous to join their civilization. Instead, humanity had joined anyway and forced its civilization to confront its own failures. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been pretty. But it had been necessary. And as Marcus's ship lifted off, heading toward Earth, he smiled. Because he knew that somewhere out there, other young species were watching, learning, realizing that they didn't have to accept the galaxy as it was, they could change it, just like humanity Had retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.